They said progress always comes at a cost. I just didn't realize the bill would show up on my doorstep. I inherited 62 acres in northern Arizona, rough, untouched land my grandfather bought after the war. He'd cleared just enough of it to build a single-room cabin, a place he called Red Rock Hollow. No plumbing, no electricity, just the sound of cicadas and wind cutting through the junipers. When he passed, the deed came to me in an envelope with one line written in his sharp, blocky handwriting. Never sell what can't be replaced. For 5 years, I didn't set foot on that property. Divorce, mortgage, 2 jobs, a daughter in community college. Life doesn't leave room for nostalgia. But every April, I paid the $5,900 in property tax, logged the receipts, kept the account spotless. The land was mine, quiet and patient, waiting, or so I thought. Last summer, when the heat broke and I finally had a free weekend, I drove north. A 3-hour trip through winding desert roads. I still remember the smell of sagebrush through the cracked window, the way the red cliffs rose like old bones from the sand. But when I turned off the highway onto the dirt road that should have led to the cabin, something was wrong. The dirt was gone. Paved asphalt shimmered under the sun, lined with new curbs and streetlights. A white sign stood at the entrance, carved stone and gold lettering, Sunridge Meadows, a Whitmore development. I pulled over, stepped out, and for a long moment, I couldn't move. My grandfather's land, the ridge, the wash, even the dry creek bed where I'd learned to shoot cans as a kid, was gone. In its place stretched a maze of freshly painted stucco houses, every roof identical, every lawn fake green, concrete driveways where junipers used to stand. A man in an orange safety vest was directing a moving truck into a driveway. Behind him, kids ran through sprinklers. They were laughing, chasing each other with water guns. None of them knew they were playing on stolen ground. I walked toward the nearest house, my boots crunching against gravel that wasn't supposed to be there. A security guard in a golf cart appeared from nowhere, engine humming, sunglasses mirrored. "Can I help you, sir? I own this land," I said, though the words came out dry, brittle. This was my property. He smiled the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Not anymore, you don't." Then he pointed toward the gatehouse. "Talk to management." At the gatehouse, a woman in a tailored white blazer stepped out, her perfume cutting through the smell of asphalt and paint. Mid-50s, tanned, confident, the kind of confidence that comes from money, not truth. She looked me up and down. "You must be the man who keeps parking on my job site." "Your job site?" I asked. "You mean my land?" Her lips twitched into a practiced smile. "According to Boulder County, this parcel was abandoned for over 3 years. We acquired it legally under adverse possession. I'm Cassandra Whitmore, by the way." The name hit me like static. Whitmore, the same developer that built those gaudy luxury compounds outside Phoenix. The ones everyone joked were where personality goes to die, I tried to explain. Told her about the deed, the taxes, the records. She just stared, her sunglasses reflecting my own frustration back at me. "Mr. She paused, clearly not remembering my name even though I'd just said it. "If you're trying to make a quick buck, talk to our attorney. Maybe we can offer a small settlement. Otherwise, please leave before I call security," I should have yelled. I should have demanded proof, marched straight to the courthouse. But instead, I drove home, 40 miles in silence, the road shimmering under the afternoon sun. That night, I spread every document across my dining table. Grandpa's original deed from 1958, notarized in black ink so faded it looked gray. Tax receipts from every year since. Survey maps, payment records, everything. It didn't make sense. You don't lose land just because you stop visiting it. You don't forfeit property when you've paid taxes every single year. I checked the county assessor's site. The land was still listed under Nathaniel Brooks. My name, my address, my contact information. So how did an entire subdivision rise without my consent? I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called the number on the county permit form, demanded to speak to whoever had approved the construction. After a long hold, a clerk told me the development had been fast-tracked through zoning under a temporary land title transfer filed by Whitmore Development LLC. When I asked how that was possible, she sighed. "Sir, I'm just reading what's on the file." By noon, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, not my usual divorce guy, but a property litigator named Lydia Chen, the same one who'd once made headlines for suing a mining company out of Wyoming. Her office smelled like polished oak and coffee beans. I told her everything. Every date, every signature, every detail I could remember. When I finished, she didn't say anything for a long time. She just flipped through my folder, her fingers tracing the paper edges like she was reading Braille. Then she looked up. "You've got proof of continuous tax payments?" "Yes." "Good, that's all I need. What happens now?" She leaned back, the corners of her mouth barely lifting. "You wait. You document everything. Every nail, every roof tile, every family that moves in. Because when they finish building, you're not suing for stolen land. You're claiming ownership of 96 finished homes. Let them dig their own hole." Her calmness unsettled me. I wasn't built for patience. I wanted to fight, but she was right. If I stopped them now, I'd be the villain. If I waited, they'd hang themselves with paperwork and arrogance. That night, I drove back to Sunridge Meadows, parked just outside the subdivision gate, watched the rows of beige houses glowing under floodlights. The rhythmic beeps of reversing trucks echoed across the hills. Workers shouted, laughed, smoked under half-finished porches. They were building the kind of dream people save decades to buy. But it wasn't their dream. It was built on the bones of mine. I stayed until the sky went dark and the houses turned into silhouettes against the fading red horizon. I thought about my grandfather's letter. Never sell what can't be replaced. They'd replace the trees, the soil, the silence, but not the deed. Not yet, and I made myself a promise that night. I'd let them finish every inch. Every coat of paint, every streetlight, every lawn sign. Then I'd walk into court with that deed and watch their empire crumble. For months, I watched them build from the ridge above the highway. My truck parked beneath the same twisted juniper my grandfather planted 60 years ago. I filmed everything. Drone footage, time-stamped photos, daily logs. 96 homes, each rising from red soil that still smelled like rain and rust. The Whitmore trucks came in at dawn, left after dark. They paved over arroyos, leveled rock faces, and built a playground right where Grandpa used to keep his rain barrels. Every time I saw another family move in, I clenched my jaw until it hurt. But Lydia was right. Patience was my only weapon. She filed the first motion in November. A simple petition, request for title verification and restitution of property. The county clerk called me the next day. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "you realize if this goes through, you're claiming ownership of private residences." "I'm claiming ownership of my land," I said. "Whatever they built on top of it is their problem." The silence that followed told me everything. She'd seen something like this before, but never at this scale. Weeks passed. Christmas lights went up across Sunridge Meadows. Fake snow sprayed across windows. Families laughing around dinner tables that sat exactly where Grandpa's wildflowers used to bloom. I didn't hate them. They were victims, too. They'd bought lies wrapped in granite countertops in 3-car garages. Then came the call from Lydia. "They're panicking," she said. "Whitmore's lawyers just offered you $2.6 million to settle quietly." No press, no admissions. My chest went tight. $2.6 million. It was more than I'd ever seen. Enough to retire, pay off my daughter's loans, start over anywhere. But I thought of Grandpa's words again. "Never sell what can't be replaced." "No," I told her. "We go to court." She exhaled slowly. "Good. I was hoping you'd say that." The first hearing was held in late January. Whitmore arrived with 5 lawyers, each carrying binders thick enough to choke a horse. Cassandra herself sat in the front row, immaculate as ever, that same smirk painted across her face. When the judge asked if we were prepared, Lydia stood, calm, controlled. "Your Honor," she said, "my client has paid property tax for this land every year since 2018. Whitmore Development built 96 residential structures without transfer of title, zoning compliance, or owner consent. We are seeking full restitution, both the land and all permanent improvements." The courtroom buzzed like a hornet's nest. Cassandra leaned toward her lawyer, whispering something sharp enough to draw blood. The judge frowned. "You're saying the defendant constructed a housing development on property they didn't legally own?" "Yes, Your Honor," Lydia said. "They built a city on stolen ground." Whitmore's attorney objected, rattling off words like clerical error, assumed abandonment, administrative oversight. But Lydia had one weapon they didn't: evidence. She projected my drone footage on the courtroom screen, the first excavation day, with timestamps and geotags tied directly to my deed coordinates. Then the tax receipts, payment confirmations, notarized title history. Every piece of paper Whitmore's empire had ignored. When she finished, the judge removed his glasses. "I'll need time to review this." Cassandra turned to me as the room cleared. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. "You'll lose years of your life for this. Just take the money." I looked her dead in the eye. "You already took everything else." Weeks dragged into months. Whitmore tried every trick: appeals, motions to dismiss, claims of developmental good faith. But the truth doesn't vanish, even when buried under concrete. Then, one March morning, I got the call that ended it all. Lydia's voice was shaking, not from fear, but disbelief. "You won, Nathaniel. The judge ruled full restitution. The land, the structures, the profit. It's all yours." For a few seconds I couldn't speak. 96 homes, a whole neighborhood. Mine. But the victory didn't feel like triumph. It felt heavy, because I knew what came next. The families, the ones who'd built lives there, whose kids had just learned to ride bikes on those driveways, would get eviction notices. Not from a faceless developer, from me. And that's when I realized winning doesn't always feel like justice. That night, I drove back to Red Rock Hollow. The houses glowed under the same sky that used to watch over my grandfather's cabin. The wind carried the sound of laughter, faint but real. I sat in the truck for a long time, headlights off, wondering if I'd done the right thing. Maybe some things aren't meant to be reclaimed, just remembered. The news broke before sunrise. Judge Awards, 96. Homes to original landowner after illegal development. By noon, reporters camped at the edge of Sunridge Meadows. Drones hummed overhead. Residents gathered on sidewalks, clutching cups of coffee, watching me like I was the storm about to wash them away. They didn't see a man who'd been robbed. They saw a villain, a trespasser threatening to erase their lives. Cassandra Whitmore didn't show her face again. Her company filed bankruptcy the same week. Their legal team vanished like smoke, leaving behind a mess that smelled of fresh paint and panic. But the families stayed. Their cars still lined the driveways. Children still played in the cul-de-sac. Because the system doesn't evict hearts, it just redraws boundaries. The sheriff's office called me the following week. "Technically, it's all yours," the deputy said, sounding almost apologetic. "But if you start evictions, you'll have protesters on your lawn by morning." I laughed, though it came out hollow. I don't even have a lawn anymore. That night, I walked through the subdivision for the first time since the ruling. The streets were silent. Every porch light burned low, like the homes themselves were holding their breath. I stopped at Lot 43, the exact spot where my grandfather's cabin once stood. A new 2-story house sat there now, painted cream and gray, the kind of color that photographs well but means nothing. Through the window I saw a young family eating dinner, the father carving meat, the mother laughing, the baby smearing food on her cheeks. It hit me like a flood. That was supposed to be my silence, my home, my land. But they were happy. I stood there for a long time, unseen in the shadows. The wind carried the faint scent of mesquite and asphalt. I imagined Grandpa standing beside me, hands in his old denim pockets, shaking his head the way he used to when I forgot my chores. "You can't own the land, Nate," I could almost hear him say. "You just borrow it for a while." The next morning, I met Lydia in her office. She had a stack of papers ready, deeds, transfer forms, everything needed to claim legal possession of the houses. "All we have to do is file these," she said. "You could sell the entire development for tens of millions, retire anywhere you want." I looked at the folder, then at her. "Burn them," I said quietly. Her pen froze. "What?" "I'm not taking it." "Not like this. Nathaniel, you can't just..." I already did. She stared at me for a long moment, then closed the folder slowly. No arguments, no speech, just quiet understanding. 2 weeks later, I signed a deed of transfer. Not to Whitmore, not to any developer, but to the residents themselves. Each family received their parcel free and clear. No debt, no lawsuits, no lingering ghosts. When the paperwork went through, I drove one last time to Sunridge Meadows, parked on the ridge, watched the wind ripple through the fake lawns and thought, maybe Grandpa was right. Some things aren't meant to be owned. They're meant to be protected. As the sun dipped behind the red cliffs, I reached into the glove box and pulled out his old keychain, the one that used to unlock the cabin door before they tore it down. I ran my thumb over the worn metal, then dropped it into the dirt. The land could keep it now, because in the end, it wasn't about deeds or dollars. It was about remembering that the earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to it.